What's up guys, long time no see. Emo Girl's back with another DIY tutorial. So we're going to be doing DIY patches completely from scratch. I'm showing you guys how to make a face, including eyes, a nose, a mouth, and other little details like teardrops and stuff. And then I'm also making a plush patch. It's gonna be like a plushie add-on type thing, and it's gonna be a cat. So I'm gonna show you guys how to make two different patches, a flat one and then a plush one. In order to get these videos out as quickly as possible, I'm gonna have to break them into 3 different parts. So first part is going to be me walking through the technical part, the planning, how I came to create these patches. So it's going to be pattern making, technical designs, cutting, getting everything ready for sewing. I decided to break up the face and the cat plush into 2 different videos. However, the planning and everything will all be together as one. So the sewing for the face is going to come out second, and then the cat head will come out last. I'm finished with the face, so it will be up as soon as this video is up, and then the cat head will be up hopefully in a week, maybe sooner, maybe not. It just depends how my life goes. Let's get into this video, which is going to be the technical and all the planning. So where do I start? Well, you want to start off with some drawings. What do you want to create? Kind of get an idea of how you will create that, but we'll get more into that later. Once you get an idea, you can take your garment and you want to decide where everything will go. Is it going to be on the side? Is it going to be on a pocket? Is it going to be on the front? Is it going to be on the waist? Is it going to be by belt loops? Where is this patch going to go? And how big, how much space, how much area is it going to cover? Once you start thinking about where everything will be, you want to take your measuring tape, or you can take some parchment paper. I did both. Measure out that area and get measurements of how much space you'll have, or you can take parchment paper and trace over that area and kind of trace over like where your waistband is in your skirt, where the pocket is, and everything. From there, I was able to draw a whole outline of my garment. In this case, it was a skirt. If you're doing a shirt, it's a lot easier because you don't have all these pockets and zippers and everything. I drew an outline of my garment. From there, I was able to figure out the sizing and the proportions and get the measurements of my patch. And then I drew my patches inside the space and measured it out. I measured it out inside the space that I drew as well as on my garment, just to double check and make sure that my measurements are correct. And now that I have an outline, I have my patches drawn to size in my outline, I can transfer this over onto a piece of paper and just do another technical sketch. I know this is kind of like, you don't have to do all this much work, but I like to do a third and final technical sketch with the correct proportions, with the correct size. But you can just skip this step because we're going to do this all over again with parchment paper again. But this is just so I can get the shape of everything the way I want it to be and the sizing the way I want it. Either before or after you have your correct measurements, your correct proportions, you want to be thinking about construction, detailing, anything that you're going to add onto these patches. What is going to be what? So this is very important in order for you to make your pattern pieces. So like for example, if you're doing a cat, you want to determine the size of the cat as well as the ears, or literally anything. You guys get the idea. You want to ask yourself a few questions, and I recommend starting with this when you start with your very first rough drafts. You want to determine all of these things in order to build your pattern pieces. Ask yourself, how will it sit on your garment? Is it going to pop out or will it lay completely flat? And how is that going to be achieved? What fabrics will you be using and what stitching supports this? Do you have to layer stitching? Do you have to layer fabrics? And then you want to think about what colors you want to use. What is going to need a border? Where are you going to have to layer stitching over and over to create an outline or a border? And then how far apart will each piece be? If you have eyes, how close are they going to be? How big do they have to be in order to achieve that? And then you also want to think about what needs to be done first. Where do I start in order to get to there? So I'm going to show you guys everything, my steps, and how I achieved this, but it can really be done any way you want to. So that's why I like to show you guys my planning and how I start getting the gears turning of creating something like this. As I mentioned before, you want to start thinking about your fabrics as you create your pattern pieces. And once you get an idea of what fabrics you want to use, for me, really, I just think of what color, and then I go scavenge throughout all of my scrap fabrics, all of my old t-shirts, and find the right materials and the right colors to use. I ended up not using all of it, of course. I just grabbed what I think could be used for what, and I took notes of what fabric is going to be what. So what color will be what kind of blend is that, how will that work for what I want to create. I like to take some parchment paper to transfer over my images because it's see-through and makes it very easy. Starting off with the perimeter so that way I know how much space to use. And then I just started tracing the shape of the head that I wanted, referring back to my drawing, adding a 1/2 inch of seam room, adding my dart at 3 inches. With the head done, I moved on to the back flap, which is 3 by 3 inches. I added a little bit of seam room for that. As well as the nose, I copied it over and added seam room. And then for the eyes, I had to make the eyes a bit smaller to get it to fit inside the head. And you can see here, I'm folding over my parchment paper just to make sure that everything will fit. Moving on to the cat ear, I'm lining it up, making sure that the sizing will work. I added a little bit of seam room for that as well, folding it over and double checking. And now I'm going to move on to the face, starting off with the perimeter again, just so that way I have an idea of how big everything needs to be. Tracing over the eye, adding that seam room. I did the same thing for the nose, the mouth, and then my drops. Start cutting them out. As I showed you guys earlier, I have already picked out all my fabric, so now I can refer back to my notes as I grab and cut out my fabric. I'm starting off with the cat head, taking this baby blue. I'm gonna cut out a square big enough for the head. With that square cut out, I can pin my pattern onto my material, start cutting around the pattern. So now I'm taking the first piece of material, again this is only the top part, cut a little slit. Now we can move on to the ears. For the ears, I'm just using the same material. Following the same process, cut out a little square. Pin your pattern on and cut around the pattern. So now we have our ears, and my silly ass forgot that we have to do 4 copies of these. So let's go ahead. This one got a little messed up, but it's okay. So now we have our 4 ears, 2 for each side. Pin those together. Moving on with the eye. Now the eye is a very special one here because I'm going to be using 3 different fabrics. This white cotton, this black cotton, this green material. I believe it's a cotton blend. It's a lot softer than regular cotton. But I'm just going to use a little bit for the color in the eye. The white, of course, is going to be the background. And then the black is going to be the pupil. Pinning on the very edge. Cutting out a square. And lastly, cutting around the pattern. And again, I forgot that I have to make 4 copies of this. I'm gonna cut out another little square of the same shape and everything. So now you have the 4 white pieces. Let's move on to the black. Let's not be a doofus this time and actually have 4 layers going on. Fold it over once, and then you want to fold it over again. Keep those pinned together. Time for our last color, which is green. And I know my piece is really wrinkly, as always. I always work around the wrinkles and with the wrinkles, so it is just the perfect green for the cat eye. So we have the face, we have the ears, we have the eyes. Now we just have to do the nose and the back flap. For the back flap, I'm using cargo scrap material. This is leftovers from when I made my cargo skirt. 4 layers again. It's the perfect amount of thickness. For the nose, I'm just going to take some black fabric. So because this piece is so small, I'm actually going to trace and then cut it out. Okay, cute. It literally looks like a kebab, like that's how tiny. And now I have all the pieces for the cat cut out. That wasn't so hard, right guys? Moving on to cutting out the face. Starting off with the eyes, I'm going to use black, white, and then canvas material. I want to see how this material holds up as support because I'm doing a lot of stitching for the color of the eye. 4 layers. With all my eyepieces cut out, moving on to the mouth. With this bright red material, I only have to layer this over 2 times. Alright, the mouth is cut out. Next comes the nose, using this baby pink material, layering it over 2 times. And the reason why you want to lay over your patches is to give more strength and stability. Alright, there we go. Now I can do the teardrops for the eyes. Taking this very bright blue material, I'm going to layer this over 4 times. And lastly, I have my drool, which is going to be the same material again, but this time I'm only going to do 2 layers. I'm going to trace it using markers so that way it's easier. Alright, so that's it for the planning. Make sure you check out the next video so you can see how to sew all these pieces together and place them onto your garment. Please also stay tuned for the cat head video, which will be up very, very soon. Thank you so much for clicking on this and watching. Peace out.